Donald Trump preparing to give a big speech in Detroit today, but it's a speech resurfacing from President Bill Clinton about Detroit that's really making waves.
The big loser in this over the long run is going to be Syria. This is an enormous opportunity for Americans. Detroit has 10,000 empty, structurally sound houses. The mayor's trying to do an innovative sort of urban homesteading program there.
So Bill Clinton says send Syrian refugees to Detroit to help revive the once booming Motor City. But Donald Trump's saying we need to help jobless legal Americans and halt bringing in refugees from terror hotspots. So who's got it right? Hi, everybody. I'm Dagan McDowell in for Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. The Bulls and Bears this week, Gary B. Smith, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Gina Loudon and Danielle McLaughlin. Welcome, everybody. Gary B., you say Donald Trump has it right.
He does, Dagan. Look, you know, in the discussion of immigrants taking jobs, you know, a lot of think tanks say, well, you know, they don't take our jobs because, you know, people wouldn't want to take, you know, jobs in landscaping and, you know, maintenance and, you know, maid service because they wouldn't want to get those low wages. And that's true. But in the case of Detroit, if you're probably right. The Syrian refugees would work at ultra low wages, probably way below minimum wage to get those jobs. But Trump is right. If we said, look, we're just going to do it with U.S. citizens and labor like that, Detroit would probably have to attract, drive up wages in order to attract people to move. So in that case, he does have it right. There are jobs there. The question always is, are there jobs at the price people are willing to come? And I'll tell you what, since, you know, Hillary wants all this government backing, that's a great place to put the extra money.
And Gina, the jobless rate in inner cities tends to be much higher than the national average. You look at a double-digit rate there. The poverty rate tends to be much higher, more than double the national rate. So why not give these jobs to Americans who need them in the cities?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I live in San Diego, Dagan, and we've taken more of the refugees than any place else in the country. And as a result, we've seen many more homeless, many more of these tent cities. And it is, I would say, smudging the beautiful reputation that San Diego has to some degree. But not only that, people are really suffering. Let me tell you, I'm a mother of a child with a chronic disease. And when you go to hospitals now, the first thing that happens is they put your child in isolation so that the infectious disease team can come test them. And when I asked why, and this takes a long time, these children are isolated, when I asked them why, they said, because we have all of these refugees coming in, we don't know what foreign diseases there are, you mix that with all the illegals, and we really have a very costly but also inhumane problem. That's isolation is for prisoners, not for children. And if Hillary is president, this is the new normal.
Danielle, who has it right, Bill Clinton or Donald Trump, on moving Syrian refugees to Detroit?
Bill Clinton has it right because this is who we are as a country. We brought in hundreds of thousands of Cuban refugees. We brought in hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees. Since 9/11, we've brought in 800,000 refugees. So even if it's 65,000, as Hillary Clinton's suggesting, that's a real drop in the bucket. By the way, many of these people are doctors, lawyers, engineers. This notion that they're going to take low-paying jobs has no basis in fact. The other thing is, Detroit itself has 670,000 people in it, down from a peak in 1950 of 2 million. Detroit needs a tax base. These people can provide it.
John, but 90% of recent Middle Eastern refugees are on food stamps. 70% of them are on cash welfare. So they are relying on the government.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton was talking about low-paying jobs. He wasn't talking about going to work at the hospital as doctors, so that argument certainly doesn't hold water. And why in the world are we talking about putting 10,000 refugees in homes in Detroit when we have 50,000 vets that served our country that are homeless right now? This is absolutely preposterous. And the fact that we're doing something to help this refugee crisis, get this, I went on the United Nations Refugee Agency website right before the show. There are 65.3 million people that are displaced right now because of conflict and persecution worldwide. 21.3 million are refugees. 10 million are stateless. 33,972 per day are forced out of their homes because of conflict. When you're talking about dealing with 10,000, That is 99.95% are still out there. And why are we not dealing with Somalian refugees? There's 1.1 million there, 2.7 million in Afghanistan. This is merely a Band-Aid that we're doing out there to show the world that we're doing something. And by the way, we're spending $17,000 per refugee to get them here before they take social services. That's $170 million that we are spending on these 10,000 refugees while we leave our vets homeless.
Jonas?
Look, I don't think the refugees are besmirching the reputation of San Diego. San Diego's going to be classy with or without refugees. I will say that Detroit is a place with low housing prices and available home, to Bill Clinton's point, unlike San Diego, where that median home price is probably 20 times what it is in Detroit, Metro Detroit area. So that would make sense to use a place that's basically a shell of its former glory if we're going to take in refugees, that's the place to send them, not to San Diego. As far as the overall economic impact, cities that were the areas that took a lot of refugees in the past, and I'm thinking about Miami with Cubans that came over, Mariel boat lift, are strong economies, stronger than they were when the refugees came over there, when that place was a burned out, not so great city. So you could actually make the case that you can improve a city and go from a decayed structure, a high unemployment area, into a better situation by taking in that refugee.
But can we not forget what has happened in Europe, Gary B? More than 1 million refugees just last year let into Germany, and Angela Merkel admits that she essentially invited terrorism into her country, one atrocity after another, whether it's sexual assaults, whether it's a pregnant woman being killed with a machete. And beyond that, we're going to concentrate all of these refugees in one area that is essentially multiculturalism, where they don't have to assimilate. And again, that's part of the problem that created terror in Europe.
I agree with you, Dagan. And what I find honestly a little annoying, with all due respect to Danielle, and welcome to the panel, is when someone falls back on the argument of that's who we are. First of all, I get the general premise. We take in immigrants, we take in refugees. That's all well and good. But when, we took those millions of people in early in the century into Ellis Island, we didn't go say, and here are some jobs for you. No, my great-grandparents had to earn their way, as did all the Asians that came in and all the Europeans that came in, and everyone else had to earn their way. It wasn't like, hey, go to this city and rebuild it, or go build the highways and stuff like that. People had to earn their way. We were welcoming to them, but there's this whole argument of that's who we are. That just drives me a little bit crazy. And Angela Merkel now is feeling that because Germany felt the same way, that they had to take them in, and now they're facing the repercussions.
Danielle?
Okay. To rebut a couple of your points. Number one, Angela Merkel took 1 million refugees. We're talking about 65,000. The way that we vet our refugees is much more considered than the way that Germany vets its refugees, not least because there are no land borders here for refugees to come to, number one. Number two, I'm a first-generation immigrant. I'm an immigrant. I have no expectation about handouts, and there's no reason to expect any of these Syrian refugees will feel the same way. So, frankly, I can see a parallel between
Ellis Island. But that's the argument you're making, that they should go to Detroit because that's who we are. That's my issue.
Hey guys, Detroit is not a shanty town. Guys, we're acting like Detroit is some shanty town, that's some third world country right now. The average home price in Midtown Detroit has gone from $170,000 to $300,000 since 2013. It is part of a great revival right now. The president said he wouldn't let Detroit go bankrupt. It did. He said he wouldn't let GM go bankrupt. It did. They are coming back right now. And all this talk about Detroit, I'm begging Trump and some of these guys to actually go to Detroit and realize there's actually a city there that is starting to do quite well.
Well, that's where Donald Trump is today. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you so much. Cavuto on Business about 20 minutes from now. Look at who it is. EMAC in for Neil. Lizzie, what have you got?
Hey, Dagan. Trump tackling immigration, the Donald vowing to defund sanctuary cities as a new report shows they're ignoring government orders. So is it time to cut them off? Plus, disturbing new anti-American propaganda from Iran as we're hearing that the administration agreed to secret exemptions for Iran. So is this more proof the nuke deal was a bad deal? We're going to debate it at the bottom of the hour.
Thank you, Liz. We can't wait. But up here first, a massive storm slamming the East Coast after bashing Florida's Gulf Coast. And it's not just creating havoc for millions in its path and lots of holiday travelers. Someone here says it's also threatening our already weak economy. Next.